this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the AVerMedia Live Streamer Nexus, which as you can see has RGB, but it's also interesting for a number of other reasons. This is a command control center that allows for Twitch and YouTube streaming and a number of other things that make it interesting. Now it's basically an alternative to the GoXLR, which you can see on the right here. A smaller version with a touchscreen display and hardware buttons and multiple volume controls that allow you to customize the audio that your audience is hearing. Basically, it's designed to be used with an XLR microphone to capture fantastic audio and then to be able to customize the audio that your audience is hearing. But what makes it interesting for me, what I found really appealing about it potentially, is that touchscreen display that you saw at the beginning of it. Essentially allows you to add an extra lot of customization options, buttons and other things that allow you to do things on the fly. And I'm going to show you how to do this and what you can do with it later on in the video, but that basically includes access to do things with Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, Streamlabs OBS, standard OBS, your system in general, and other things too. And because it's software level, they're going to update it in the future, so it'll be getting better with time too, so there's potential in the future it'll be even more interesting. All that comes around £300 sterling as well, which is actually very affordable when you consider the cost of a device like this that's capable of powering an XLR microphone and also multiple other things too, because this control and command center is essentially basically allowing you to plug in various devices to it and route the audio through. So if you have a complicated setup, for example with a dual PC setup, or if you're trying to stream a console into a PC and get audio from an XLR microphone and other sources, then you can do that with this. Or if you're using it like I am, with a simple setup where you've got one PC going in, you've got a mic going into it, but you've got multiple virtual sources of audio like Discord, the game, and music from Spotify, for example, and you want to then route that through and adjust the levels on the fly with some easy access buttons, and you can do that and you get fantastic sound out of it too. Now I've done a video separately on AVerMedia's microphone that can be combined with this to deliver great sound, but in this video I'm going to be showing you what this control box is all about and how you set it up. So in the box you obviously get the control box itself and a power plug, because it does need to be plugged into the mains in order to power it. It also then needs to be plugged into your PC, and I'll show you that in a second. As an included 3.5mm connection, you can plug that into an accompanying headset of your own choosing. I'm using the Astro A50 wireless, which this then plugs into the base station of. That allows you to then mic monitor and to hear the audio sources that are passing through this machine. Well, essentially what you're doing is setting the control box as your main audio source, and that then routes through the headset and gives you that audio so you can hear your own mic, but you can also monitor what the audience is hearing and other things. More on that later on. But 3.5mm connection allows you to also do other things, so you can input other devices into it. This has a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can plug in. They give like the Nintendo Switch as an example of something that you could plug into and stream from and get the audio out of. There's a USB cable with a Type A connection on one end and Type B on the other. You need to plug into this and then into your streaming PC. You connect those two together with the power and that, and obviously then plug in your XLR microphone into it, and then you can control it. You need some software, which I'll link to in the description, that allows you to customize the settings on it and to engage with it. And I'll show you that software later on, because that's where things get particularly interesting. On the right hand side you have 4 hardware buttons with a very sort of soft touch press to them. You can customize them to do whatever you want within the software as well, which is really nice. And then you have the screen, obviously. At the rear is where all the action happens. You have the power input, the USB connection, optical inputs, 3.5mm, you've got line in and line out, and you have also the headphone port as well to let you listen to that. One other highlight that I really like about that is the power switch, which is sorely lacking on the GoXLR, so you can turn it off when you're not using it, so it's not permanently on, even though it's plugged into the mains. It also comes with a little stand, so you can have it sort of flat on your desk, or you can set it so you can adjust it so it's sitting up at an angle so that you can see it. And I actually prefer using it on the stand. It puts it into a really nice angle where you've got a good view of it when it's sitting on your desk near your keyboard or wherever you choose to put it, and you can see it and reach it with ease, and it's a nicer fit there. But if you'd rather it lays flat, then you can do that, and it's a nice setup. Now this is out of the box, a nice looking bit of kit, and it seems like a very solid bit of kit. It's quite complicated to set up, I'll be honest. Had to fiddle around with it quite a bit to get it right, and there's a lot of adjustments in terms of the mics, but that's a completely different video because it's really going to vary depending on your microphone. But when you get into the sound settings, it's fairly straightforward, and again I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on, just to give you an overview of it. But what this allows you to do is some really powerful things with the audio sources, because you can customize what your audience is hearing and adjust the levels of each thing. As an example, you'll see there's a chat wheel on the right hand side and a game volume wheel as well, and the system volume wheel and console and line in and mic, so you can adjust all of those individually. Chat, for example, you can set up Discord so you can have chat on there and you can adjust the levels of that. You can also maybe set up one of the other dials to be specifically Spotify, and you can see a Spotify widget here on the touchscreen that I set up. And then you can adjust the audio levels of Spotify, both for yourself and for your audience, or separately, so you can have different volumes for you versus what the audience is going to hear, which is a really nice thing. You can also adjust the mic volume, the chat volumes, and all that way, and you can separate and customize those levels as well, which is a really nice feature. You'll notice there's an RGB lighting bar that runs around the outside of the box. You can adjust that within the software. It's not too distracting, I've found. It's not super bright. You can see it reflects nicely on the desk and it's got a nice bit of a glow to it. It's not the main selling point of it. I think it looks a bit snazzy and it adds to it, but it doesn't detract from it in the way that it's super distracting. But you can easily adjust it within the software. You can see there's loads of different things going on here. It is basically trying to be all singing, all dancing. You've got essentially a compact stream deck sort of screen plugged into the control box itself, and then you have access to be able to control all the different audio levels with ease and on the fly. And this is really valuable when you're setting up a stream and getting that sound right. And what this box does cleverly is it splits that audio into two different audio sources, so it comes out as an audience mix and a creator mix, and I'll show you what I mean about that a bit later on. The setup is also fairly straightforward in terms of plugging it in and connecting it to your machine, as well as programming the screen and the buttons to do what you want to. You just need to connect them to your various accounts. A close-up shot of the rear here, you can see what I was talking about. On the left-hand side, you have the headphone output, so you can monitor things. You have line in and line out 3.5mm connections, optical inputs, and other things. It then allows you to basically add in audio sources from a variety of things. So you have a multitude of options of what you're connecting and what you're streaming with, which is really nice too. So now, one thing I will note about this that's worth going into a bit more depth on, and I'm going to talk a bit more about this in another video in the near future, is that I tried to use my Shure SM7B with this device, and unfortunately it doesn't have the power to power the Shure microphone. You need a cloud lifter in order to get the good audio out of it. That is not something I had a problem with the GoXLR, so this doesn't quite stack up there. However, if you use an AVerMedia's microphone, which I've done a video on separately, that does work and it sounds really good. And you do need to tweak the settings a lot, but I'll show you a bit later on that you can adjust all sorts of things, including noise gate and other things within that software, get the mic sounding great. So this box helps you to set up your microphone so it sounds fantastic, like mine does right now, but also to be able to customize levels and control your stream to deliver a really good experience for your audience. It's also a really good quality build quality. It has a nice solid feel to it, and you can see that you can pull the buttons off, but they're nice and stiff, and the underside you can see the metal switches and the overall design of it. It feels like a nice solid bit of kit. Already represents really good value for money, and that is the same sort of logic that I saw with the AVerMedia microphone, the XLR microphone that I looked at. Again, that is a fantastic value for money, a really good premium product for a much lower price than you'd expect to pay, in my mind. And so this thing sort of combines two things, essentially a GoXLR and a Stream Deck into one device, but does it in a affordable way. Now, it isn't cheap, £300, but it does deliver a really good experience for that money. And if you're looking to up your streaming game, then this is certainly worth considering. XLR microphone that you can see here is the AVerMedia one I was talking about. You plug the XLR cable into your microphone and then you plug it into the control box. The control box then plugs into your PC and into power, and you're away. That's the basic setup, but that's the minimum amount of things you can do. Headphone monitoring port then goes out to your headphones, whatever you're using. If you have a 3.5mm connection on it, you can plug in there. and then you can hear the audio from your microphone and get access to the creator mix, as well as being able to monitor the audience mix. And that's where things get really interesting. The box itself can then be turned on and off with ease, and it just sits on the desk and it looks the part. It looks really nice. Nice overall finish on it, and it's smaller than the GoXLR as well, so it doesn't take up that much space, which is great and definitely a bonus. So now I'm going to go into the software and show you what you can do with that, because it's very powerful. So here we are within AVerMedia's Live Streamer Nexus software. I'll leave a couple of links in the description so you can download this and the accompanying other software that you need to keep it updated. So it's important to update this regularly, and I think it's important to note that right at the beginning of this, because they're going to be updating this regularly, and because it's software level, you can add in loads of extra features in the future. Now, if you're familiar with Elgato Stream Deck software, then the concept for this Live Streamer Nexus is very similar. What AVerMedia has done, and it's very clever, they've basically taken the control panel of a GoXLR in terms of the audio controls for mic, console game, system sounds, chat, and all those sorts of things, and then put a Stream Deck inside it of sorts. It's not quite as powerful as a Stream Deck, but it does have a number of different controls that make it really interesting. That essentially gives you 4 hardware buttons that you can see on the side here, and a multitude of software buttons over here as well. So this 5-inch display on the left hand side of the Nexus is visible here within the control panel, and you can see that you can go through the different pages. There's actually several different pages that you can set up. You have 5 different pages that you can go between and set up with various different commands. On the left hand side, you have access to hotkeys and widgets from there, where you can access them and then you can switch between them and put them in wherever you want. So you can set up panels the way you want it. I've set up some already for demonstration purposes. I've purposely left some holes in it so I can show you how I'm going to set these up and what I've done, and talk about it in a bit more depth. But you can obviously customize this the way you want it. Now, on the left hand side, you'll see that you have access to a variety of different settings. You have Nexus, you have system commands, you have Rec Central, OBS Studio, YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, and Streamlabs OBS. From each of these, you can set them up and link them with your relevant accounts, and then you have controls of them. So, for example, at a basic level, you can see that I have Spotify set up here, and I can play music from Spotify when my Spotify is running. So if you've got Spotify running already, and here I've got it with Harris Heller set up and ready to play, that is then visible here. So you can see the album art is one of the things that I can select from that. So if you go into the Spotify drop down, you can see you can choose the Playing Now section as 3x2 widget, which fills this up so you get an idea of what's playing. You can use media controls to skip back and forth and pause and play the music, and you can adjust the volume. What's interesting here actually is adjusting the volume doesn't adjust at system level volume, it adjusts Spotify's volume within the app, so you can see it adjusting the volume down in the bottom right of Spotify's app here. And so you can basically adjust the audio level of the music that's being played, and that's a point of note as well I'm going to go into a bit more depth on. But because this system outputs a creator mix and an audience mix, it means that you can listen to music at different levels, or even not play it at certain levels. So you could have music playing for you but not playing for your audience, or vice versa. Or you could have music playing quietly for you and loudly for your audience, or vice versa. So that has an interesting side effect and a knock-on of this, which is pretty neat. So if you're using like Harris Heller's Stream Beats, for example, which is copyright free music, you can play that back on your stream without any problems. But alternatively, you could have no music playing on your stream, and you could be listening to Spotify on your earphones but not having it playing on the stream and not worry about any copyright strikes. So that's really cool, and that's a really nice functionality that I'll get to in a bit. Other things that you can do is you can drop information in from YouTube, so you can see, for example, the number of people viewing your current stream. You can get information on the chat box and what's going on in there. Obviously I'm not streaming at the moment, so I can't show that, but I can go over this side and you'll see there's a Twitch follower option as well, and you can see I've got 307 followers at the moment. Obviously no one's viewing because again I'm not streaming, but you have the option to add in things like a chat box, for example. And again, you can get that chat going there. Now you see for Twitch, for example, there's only 3 things currently. There's not a multitude of controls here. We can't do loads of stuff with it. But it is a pretty nice interface with some optional highlights to it. And the same for YouTube. There's only 3 things at the moment, but that might change in future. And it is interesting to see what they've put in here and what you can potentially do. Another pretty cool thing that you can do is there is an ability to add a soundboard. So in the Nexus controls, you'll see here that you have a soundboard player. You can soundboard stop, you can do switches between them and such like. And you can basically drop this play button into here, and then down on the bottom, you'll see that you then have the ability to select a file. So I have a selection of soundboard sounds, and these are basically just from Rainbow Six Siege that someone's created, downloaded the files from there. You can put that in there, and then you can rename it. So we can set this up to be, we're just going to put break because it's window break, and now that is on there. And then when I press it activates the sound of a window break, and so you could trick people into thinking a window's being broken, or just you could obviously add in your own sounds and do whatever you want with this. But you have a number of different buttons that you can access here. Now it's not quite as rich as the Elgato Stream Deck because you obviously can't folder things, so can't put folders and folders and folders. You don't have loads of access to a multitude of things in here, but you can do lots of other things. For example, you can also set it, so if I drag this in here, you can set it so it launches a particular website. So at the moment it's set to AVerMedia, but maybe I could set it to launch my Twitch channel, or you could go to youtube.com/user/the Prawn as an option, and you can do that. And then with a click of that button, now at software level, it will hopefully open up a window. And there you go, user the Provoked Prawn. Subscribe if you haven't already. And then obviously you can basically tweak these around. You can set it up the way you want it and customize this to your heart's content. Now, another thing that you can do that I mentioned already, and I'm going to go into a bit more depth on now, is obviously changing your audio settings and customizing the sound. So as I said, you have these levels, and you can see you've got mic, input, line, console, system, game, and chat. Now, chat is generally used for Discord, and then game you can set as a game sound, and system sound will be the overall sound that you're hearing. You can also put consoles in, so you can plug in a Nintendo Switch. There are options for dual PC setups and things like that. For the basis of this video, I'm basically talking about using a single PC setup because that's how I operate. Single PC stream, I'm basically streaming to it, but I'm going to capture audio from Discord and chat from the game and from my microphone as well, obviously, and then push that out to the audience. But what you can do is these are virtual, so some of them are virtual and some of them are at hardware level. And what you can do is you can have, as I said, you can have different settings and different levels for different ones. So if you pay attention to game, for example, you'll see that on audience it's set to 65%, but for creator it's set to 100%. Now for the creator, that basically shows what you're hearing in the headset, and then the audience what the levels they're hearing. So maybe you want the chat from your friends in Discord to be at maximum so you can definitely hear them, but you want your voice to be more prominent to your audience. So you could go into this setting and you can adjust this chat level and set it lower. So if you click on audience and then roll that wheel, it will then adjust that level. And you can customize that level. And then when I click back on audience, it puts it back into creator mode. And again, if I then click on creator, you can see I'm at 85, audience is at 70. Maybe I want to turn mine up again. So now I'm at 100. The audience is still only hearing it at 70%. And you can do this logic with anything. So you could set the game sounds to be lower, for example. Now, in order to do this, if you go into Windows sound settings, there are a couple of things that you need to do. You need to set up the output device as system level, so Live Streamer Nexus, and then input is the chat mic, so that's the microphone that you've got going in. But if you go into app device preferences and then find the relevant sound source, so in this case, for example, we're going to use Spotify. You need to play it in order to activate it in here and being able to find it. But then what you can do, if you look, is output and input. So you can set a different output and input for this. So we're going to have it set to game just because there's no music one. And we can then adjust the audio level, and that allows us to then set again a different audio level for the audience versus the creator. So as I was saying, I've now got it set so I've got 65% volume on the music for my audience, but 100% for me. Or maybe you don't want to listen to music and you just want music set up for your audience, and you can do that now. So I can roll this wheel down, I can basically mute that entirely, but the audience will still be hearing it. So once you've done that, basically you need to just go into OBS Streamlabs. So I've got it set up here, and you need to select an audio source. So we select an audio source and we're setting the mic/auxiliary as the audience mix. So that is what the Nexus is going to put out as the overall mix for the audio, what's going into your Streamlabs, and that's mixing all the things down. So your game audio, your chat audio, your mic audio, your music, and everything else that's going in the system all goes into one feed, and you set it as your mic setting. And you can do that on either of these. So we're going to set it on here, for example, audience mix. So now you only have one audio source that's going into there, but you can then control it from the Nexus box and access all those settings and tweak the levels and send out the audio that you want to the audience, which is really neat, and it's a very powerful tool, and it gives you a lot of customization options for the levels that you're sending out. And the other cool thing about it is you can also monitor it. So you can click on the monitor box at the top, and then you'll be able to hear what your audience is hearing and the levels that they're at. And then you can switch back to creator mode and switch between them. So you'll be able to, you can actually live monitor these just by switching into it. So if you're in audience, if I click on that audience button, it then puts you into the audience mode so you can hear what the audience is hearing. So you would get an idea of what sound the audience is going to hear and whether you're happy with the levels and how it's set, which is really useful and powerful tool, especially if you've got a problem with audio not working properly. Now if you click on the microphone, you get access to a number of other settings. This is obviously very important in terms of the mic setup, and this is going to vary depending on your room and the microphone that you've got plugged into it. But what it does is it gives you more of an overview into all the different things. So you can see, for example, what I was talking about. Again, you have basic setup. There's two different options. You have a single mix output, which is the master mix. So you have your mic line in console system, game audio, and chat audio. If you select this, then you basically have one output and you can't have the two different ones. You'll see now we've got a master output instead of the audience mix and the creator mix. So you're actually better off, in my mind, selecting the dual mix settings, because that then allows you to set these different volumes for each of them, so you can hear different things, your audience can hear different things. It is a bit complicated to start with, and you need to sort of work on how to work it out and wrap your head around it, but once you do that, life becomes a lot easier. Part of the explanation for it is worth going into your sound settings within Windows, because then you can see it in a bit more depth. You'll see that the system sound settings are here. It's important to set that as the default device, because that's the main thing where all your audio is going to be going into, and then do the channeling out for the audience mix and the creator mix. In the recording section, it's also important to select chat mic as your default communication device. Doing that then allows that to then push your microphone through to the creator mix and the audience mix. And it's worth noting that you can really only monitor your mic audio easily with side tone basically when you're in the creator section as well. Then when you have Discord running, you go into your input devices and you set chat mic for both input and output. What that does is it captures your microphone through the chat mic, which is the mic that you have plugged into the control box, and that puts it through into Discord. But it also takes the mic audio out of Discord that's coming from your friends that you're hearing, and mixes it into the audience mix so that people can hear you. And that's how you can then adjust this chat volume. So the chat volume you're seeing here isn't your microphone, it's your friends talking to you, so you can adjust their levels. The other thing that you can do is you can adjust the microphone level and the microphone gain. You can apply noise gate and compressor settings and adjust the equalizer to improve the quality of your voice. I'm going to do a separate video on this because it's a bit more complicated and it needs a bit more explanation, but I don't think it's worth going into great depth here because it's going to vary depending on the mic you've got plugged in. But basically what that allows you to do is to eliminate background noise and to make for a much better sounding microphone. So as you can see, there's some really interesting software here, and I think in the future they will improve this even further with the addition of more things that make it even more powerful, because there is potentially a lot of things that you can do with these software buttons, and you can make hardware buttons too. If you're using OBS Studio or Streamlabs, obviously being able to switch between sources, for example, on a hardware button or on a software button with just a click makes life a lot easier. Change scenes, being able to mute your audio with ease without having to alt-tab out, those sorts of things are really nice. It'd be nice to see a lot more settings in here. You can do a lot more with Elgato Stream Deck than you can in here at the moment, but this is early days. At the point of capturing this footage, it's bound to be the case that they'll improve things in the future. It'd be nice to see more on the Twitch and YouTube as well, obviously, but you can see the potential for it here. Also the controls that are already in here, things like the ability to have a soundboard is a really nice touch that many streamers are bound to like, and obviously you could just entirely populate all these screens with a soundboard if you wanted to. You don't have to set it up the way I have. There's plenty of options for doing a lot of other things. So there you have it, a really interesting device with a multitude of different potential possibilities, customization options, and an overall nice look and feel with some great sound too. Be sure to check out my other video on the AVerMedia microphone and the highlights of that device, and come back soon for a comparison with the GoXLR. And I'm also thinking about doing a video on how to get the best sound out of this. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing that. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it useful, interesting, hilarious, or all of the above. Be sure to check out the description for other information you might find interesting and useful, as well as these other videos, and click that join button to find out the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.